Hello everyone, welcome back to the latest update series. This is Divya Kawatra and we meet again to discuss a very concerning issue that India is facing right now. That is, our total fertility rate has fallen below the average, right? The total replacement rate, that is 2.1. Our total fertility rate has gone below the replacement rate, that is 1.9 now. Okay, so this is very concerning. What total fertility rate is, why it is concerning, why it is going low, and what can we do about it, how it is standing against global comparisons. We'll take a look at all that. All right. Okay. So let's try to understand first of all why it is in news, because according to the latest SRS data, our replacement rate should be 2.1. What is replacement rate? Like, what is happening in the world is, how is population maintained? A few people die and a few new are born, right? That way they are replacing the dead ones, right? They are replacing the dead ones and there's this circle going on, right? But if more people start dying and less people are born, don't you think this circle will be disturbed? This balance will be disturbed, right? Yeah. So this replacement rate at which deaths are occurring, rate at which newborns are replacing them, that is 2.1. But right now, our total fertility rate is going to 1.9. That means we are going way below the replacement rate. That means more people are dying, less are being born. And if less are being born, don't you think that will affect our demography, right? How will it affect our demography? It will affect our demography because if more people are dying, less are being born, that means more people will come to an old age very soon and new people won't be there. If new people are not there, we won't have young population. If we don't have young population, we won't have a good demographic dividend. If we don't have a good demographic dividend, naturally our country or our economy will suffer because of that, right? Because if we don't have younger people to work, to do the research, to do the development, who will do that? Nobody. That means we have more of dependent population. If we have more of dependent population, that means the burden on the rest of the population is very high. Because of that burden, they will not be able to contribute to the economy up to their full potential. And it is not just about economy. We have to maintain the population balance for the country to strive, right? So there was a time we kept saying that, okay, we need to reduce the population. Now is the time multiple states like Andhra Pradesh, etc. are giving incentive to actually have a third child. They are giving 30,000 rupees extra to have a third child, right? Why? Because of this replacement rate. So this has come into news and this is just creating waves. You must have seen that international personalities like Elon Musk are also commenting on the fact that India's replacement rate is going way down. Our total fertility rate is going way down, and coming years this will create a very huge problem for us, very huge problem for our diaspora, for demographic dividend, for everybody. And we should really look into it. Internationally, everybody is looking at it, right? We need to resolve that. We need to make sure this doesn't happen. How do we do that and why this is happening? But before that, we'll see. But for now, let's understand what TFR is. What is total fertility rate? Total fertility rate is basically an average, right? If we take out an average of the fact that, age of women, that is reproductive age, 15 to 49, we take an estimate that how many children do you think within this time period, according to the data, they are supposed to have or they will be having during these reproductive years, right? So that is what we try to find out. How do we do that? Total expected births upon total women of reproductive age. How many births can they have? And how many women are present in the world who are actually in their reproductive age, where they can actually conceive, right? Yeah, that is how we find it out. Okay. Yeah, so it is basically a synthetic indicator that it is not exactly tracking the real group of women, like who can have, child or what. No, it is just giving you a rough idea that how population would be replaced in your nation. Okay. Yeah. So this is TFR, total expected birth upon total women of reproductive age. Let's take a look at the data. We have our total fertility rate at 1.9%, 1.9 according to the SRS data. Okay, yeah. So this is obviously below the replacement rate of 2.1, right? It has remained 1.9 for consecutive years, so it is a matter of concern now. Crude birth rate is 18.3, which measures live births per 1,000 population. That means if 1,000 babies are being born, how many of them are actually being born alive? Right? Many a times it happens because of lack of nutrition or any accidental case or anything. Sometimes the children are born dead, right? How many of them are actually born alive? In that case, we have only 18.3. Then we have crude death rate. It is 6.4 deaths per 1,000 population, right? I've listed a prelims trap here. Just see that. I've highlighted a prelims trap here. Please look at that. It is stabilized at 6.4 overall death rate. It remains above the pre-pandemic levels. It still remains above the pre-pandemic levels, which is 6.0. Okay. So here is what where prelims can trap you. So just make sure that you remember this. Okay. Then we have IMR, infant mortality rate, that is 24. That is 24. Probability of dying before 1 per 1,000 live birth. Okay. Per 1,000 live births, how many of them will die after having a live birth? First we had how many would be born dead. Now they are born alive, but after being born alive, they die. Right? Because of nutrition, disease, pneumonia, etc. Many things happen, and because of that, they die. So how many of them are actually dying after having a live birth? Okay. Yeah. And sorry. In this case, Kerala has the lowest and Chhattisgarh has the highest. Please remember that. Kerala has the lowest and Chhattisgarh has the highest. Now, under 5 mortality rate, under 5 children who are dying, 1 to 4, under 5 children, 28 probability of dying before completing the age of 5. Sex ratio at the birth, 9:18. Female per 1,000 male, simple, right? 3 years average. This is 3 years average, not 1 year, 3 years average. Please remember that. Institutional deliveries, 95.4. This is an overwhelming response because now most of the children are being born in the hospitals in a sterilized environment rather than being born in the backyard of the house with some ladies and towel sheets and water and whatnot, right? So we are improving that condition. I'm not saying that was bad. It is bad now because of lack of sanitation, lack of facilities, lack of the climate change that is happening. Along with that, the rise in the diseases and environment, right? So that has changed now. Because of that, new requirements are there, and those new requirements are only present in the hospitals, right? So if something happens to the child, by the time you take the child to the hospital, child might be dead. So if you if you are born in the hospital, wouldn't that be easier for the doctors to handle the child, to make sure that the child doesn't die because of whatever the problem is he's facing, right? So that becomes better. All right. Okay. If we talk about the institutional framework, who releases this data? This is released by the Office of Registrar General and Census Commissioner, ORGI. It is published annually. Okay. Parent Ministry, we have MHA, Ministry of Home Affairs, not Ministry of Health and Family Affairs. Please remember this. Please remember this. Generally, in this case, we move towards family welfare, right? That is our first choice. But in this case, which is the ministry? It is the Ministry of Home Affairs. Please, please, please remember that. A very important fact and a very confusing fact where you can get your question wrong. Then we have the nature of survey, large scale, continuous, death rate, fertility, mortality, everything, every sample framework is conducted. And right now we are doing it on the basis of census of 2011. Now we'll have our new census and then we'll change the data. Okay. Let's see a global comparison, how the rest of the countries in the world are performing and how India is doing as compared to that. India, 1.9. In China, it is 1 to 1.2. It is ultra low. Ultra low, and that's why. Why? Because one child policy. China had one child policy. India at least had 2 child policy. China had 1 child policy for a very long time because it had excessive population. Even now it has excessive population. While the rate is 1 or 1.2, it still has excessive population. But now, since the replacement rate has declined, very soon they will be out of population. And population is the largest, strength of China. Because of that, they are able to do mass production. That's why they sell everything so cheap. If they don't have the population, no mass production. If no mass production, no cheap products. No cheap products, trade will get immensely affected throughout the world, because everybody knows China's quality is are, a bit of a compromise, but for that price, everybody buys it, right? But if they don't have that population, that price won't be happening. So they're also thinking about cancelling that one-child policy now and making a change to that, right? Exactly. Then we have South Korea 0.72, critically low, severe economic strain is happening, hyper-utilization is happening of the resources, school systems are collapsing down. You see Japan, you see South Korea, you see Germany, you see China, all these countries, they are facing severe population crisis. That's why every now and then you see that they are giving scholarships, they're giving money to people to come and stay in their countries and lead a life there. If you go and marry there and set up a family there, they're actually paying you to do that. A lot of you are getting ideas now, don't? But they're actually doing that. Such policies do exist. They're paying you to come and settle down there, have a family there, marry there, have children there. That way they'll be able to increase their population, because the people in their own country, they're not willing to do that. Most of them are not willing to marry, and some of them are not willing to have children. Some of them cannot have children because of a lot of problems, like especially in Japan, the fertility was severely affected by the nuclear attack, right? So a lot of things are happening across the world, and in sub-Saharan African nations, we have 4 to 4.5 that are crossing off the charts, right? This is a very high growth, youth bulges are there, and that's why now all the, countries are investing in Africa, saying that we'll spread education there. Why? Because if they are educated, we'll get cheap workforce from here. Just like colonials used to do with India. Same thing we're doing with Africa now. The entire world is doing that to Africa now, because they have a lot of youth. We want that youth, but if the youth is not educated, no use. Africa cannot provide education, at least not extensive education. So other countries are going there to provide that, right? So that we can have cheap workforce, cheap work labor. Yeah, exactly. So this is like a huge variation throughout the world, not just India. But in India, if we see, there's a rural and urban split, because in rural India, total fertility rate is 2.1. In urban, it is even lesser, that is 1.5. So the average comes to 1.9. Okay. Yeah. So this one, in the urban cases, it is far more extreme and needs special attention. Okay. There's a note that urban India has remained continuously below since 2005, right? There can be a statement, please remember this for prelims. There can be a statement that it has been below the average or below our rural data since 2005. Yes, it is correct. Okay, please remember that. Another thing, if we talk about the state-wise variations, we'll see that Bihar has the highest in the country, 2.9. After that, we have from UP, that is 2.6. These are the states that are performing higher than the state average, that is 2.1. Then there are the lowest TFR states. We have Delhi 1.2, Tamil Nadu 1.3, and Kerala 1 or Karnataka 1.5. So naturally, they are not performing that good. And there are states who are performing good. On an average, we need to push every state to work better towards that. Yeah. Exactly. So there has been a large scale shift. We've already discussed that. Total FR stands. Where does it stand? Right. So 8 structures we have discussed, and that is how the pyramid goes. Is that clear? Yeah. So we have a question for you based on this. I hope you understood what is TFR. You understood what is TFR? Yes. You understood how population is changing, how gender gaps are also increasing. Rural urban populations are separate. State-wise, they are separate. Globally, we have a separate agenda, separate data, all that, right? Yeah, but it is a strikingly concerning issue for India as well, and we should be paying attention to that. Clear? All right. We have a question for you based on this. Read the question and pause the video, read the question, give us your answer in the comment section. All right. Okay, that's about it. Thank you so much for joining in. See you in the next session. Till then, take care. Thank you. Bye-bye.
For more informative content, like, share and subscribe, and do not forget to press the bell icon to get the notifications.